Hello, welcome to the first episode. So, it sounds weird, but the first thing that I want to cover is actually bus stops, and this is because I had a 4.5 hour delay on my flight into Cancun, and by the time I got through the airport, which was horrendously confusing, all the buses had left and I couldn't get a bus from where I needed to be from the airport to Tulum, so I had to get a taxi from Cancun, or from Cancun airport into Cancun itself and have an extra night there. Now, this was all incredibly stressful. Last thing you want to do when you've flown halfway across the world is have to revise your plans and what you thought you had set up. So the next morning, after I'd woken up from a different hostel, I went to the bus stop, and the bus stop was designed so well that it instantly calmed me. And the reason why it calmed me is because somebody had purposely designed the bus stop so it was incredibly simple to use. There was a large glass entranceway, a clear ticket booth, and a waiting room to the side that was glass. You could see all the buses from the bus stop or from the waiting room, and it was just an unbelievably process from getting from Cancun to Tulum. And from all the chaos and the hecticness from the airport, which I think Cancun airport is actually not designed very well at all, to be honest. It was incredibly confusing about how to get around, and it actually kicked you out nowhere near where you needed to be. So you know you're instantly chasing your tail and trying to figure out where you are, where you need to be. And in universal design, that shouldn't happen. And bus stops and airports are universal design. So I want to go into why this particular bus stop was designed well, show you how it was built, and go into the details of the spatial planning and the construction of it. Hopefully you enjoy. If you do, then please like and share, because I want to start pumping out a lot of these videos to hopefully educate and learn as well myself, or kind of all learn together about how our world is built and designed. Hey there guys, so this is my crude sketch of the airport. Now, we landed here, and when we got off the plane, we literally, this is the path that I have in my head that we took. We walked around the building and came out somewhere here through customs. This is meant to be my little custom sketch here, before coming out and out of the building. Now, the bus stop was all the way, this is Terminal 8, this is Terminal 2. The bus stop was all the way over here, so we had to find this terminal before we could even get a bus. We had to ask locals, but the fact of the matter is, you couldn't see it, there were no signs, and it was just unbelievably confusing. So as I mentioned, the last bus had gone anyway. So when I got into Cancun, the only thing to do was take a taxi or a bus to Cancun anyway, because there were none running to Tulum. So what I want to do is show you the bus stop that actually calmed me down, and I'm going to show you how it's built and the thought process behind it, and I'm going to do that on a different page here through a sketch. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to do this first one in plan. Bit of a bulky pen, but nonetheless, we're okay. So when I approached the bus stop, there was a clear glass frontage here. Now this invited you in immediately, and right behind that was the ticket booth, and there were a couple of tenders sitting here, waiting for you to come in. So I literally walked through the door, said "Una boleta on Tulum, por favor," grabbed my ticket, and the waiting room was here, with buses literally lined up like this, here, 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 here. You could see the number of each bus. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. And there was a large board somewhere around here, telling you what time each of these buses would be leaving. So this is the waiting room mirror with your seats. There were people sat everywhere in here, and then there were door sets in here, and when it came for the bus to leave, somebody would shout, you would simply take your stuff, come through the door and jump onto your bus before it left. And it was just wonderfully easy. There was even a couple of shops on this side here, so if you wanted a drink or anything like that to pick up, you could do, and you could keep your eye on the bus the whole time. And it was just a wonderfully simple thing. A small design can be incredibly good. So I want to look at this in section now, because in plan you can see how simple this all is. But I also want to show the simplicity in section as well, because there's a little bit of psychology or design psychology to this section as well, which I'll show you now. So in section, if we draw in a ground plane here, the building effectively sat at one level, one roof here. Now there's psychology behind this, because basically as a human you are at eye level here, and your visual link to your object, which in this case is a bus, is never broken. Which that's a little bit not to scale, but you get what I'm going for. So this roof is simply elevated and supported by some metal structures that did this, and some B structures that sat like this. It's an incredibly simple design, and it works incredibly well, because all you have is an elevated roof plane here, and your visual is never broken. Now these are little tree structures that I'll point out using images, and it's just a wonderfully simple thing to do. It's the psychology of this design just relaxes you instantly, because you always see the final goal. You've got ticket booths somewhere behind these guys. Actually, we'll draw these in green here. So the ticket booths that were as you came in. People sat behind these. So you could grab your ticket, walk on through to the waiting room, sit down on a bench here. Put someone sat there like that, with a little suitcase maybe, with wheels on. And the other reason why this was simple is because the whole thing was effectively wrapped in glass, which is called a curtain wall. And a curtain wall is simply panes of glass that are bolted together like so. So these guys are joined, and they're often called spider fittings, but you'll see the circular fitting in the corner of these, and then there'll be a piece of metal that effectively holds them together. Now the joints here can be simply silicone infill, but at the station, again, because I imagine it's such a hot country, these weren't filled at all. And these guys sit on a subframe which sits on the main frame, so on the front of the building, if you like. There's a subframe coming down like this. In fact, do you know what? We'll do this in red. We'll do this in red to make it more clear. There's a subframe coming down like this. All the way along. And the panes simply sat. Your spider fixing fixes onto these, so your panes simply sat like this within the window. So these guys were joined up, and they are fixed to the frame here. Like this. And yeah, these guys directly fix onto the subframe, which again I'll show you some pictures of that. But this whole design is super easy. There's a very famous example of it that I'll show an image of, and it's a sketch by Sir Norman, or Lord Norman Foster, and it's for Stansted Airport, and it's a very similar design. He basically created a human plane all the way through. So let's call this a human plane. A human plane. And he put the luggage holds below Stansted Airport. So to move through the airport, it was incredibly easy at one level, and the mechanical elements all happened below ground. Psychologically, for humans, this works wonderfully well because you can put signage and wayfinding posts all the way through an airport or a bus station or whatever the universal structure is, and simply shepherd people through. And these public buildings, especially transportation buildings, are high stress environments, so they should be designed to be as simple as possible. And that's what this bus station, this was actually an Addo bus station in Cancun. I say it instantly helped me feel relaxed, and that is the power of good design and good architecture. I'll feed some more images and bits and pieces into this, but hopefully you'll understand what I mean when you see some of the images. And if you have any questions or anything, then pop them in the comments below, and I'll try and respond to them. Or if you have any input or anything like that. I mean, I haven't gone into the specific details of how these are constructed, but I can do if you want me to. But perhaps that's for a different episode. This floor in particular is actually reinforced concrete, and I am going to talk about that in a different episode. So bear with me. Hopefully, as we keep going through these videos, we'll learn more, and things will start to piece together, and we'll all figure out how these structures are made anyway.